Okay, before we really get going, I want you to close your eyes for just a second and picture a map of the world. You're probably seeing the distinct borders of all the different countries, right? The massive land masses of our continents, and then just those vast, empty expanses of blue ocean. Well, welcome to today's Explainer, where we're actually going to map out what's hiding in that blue. We're analyzing the absolute backbone of the global economy. Think about it for a minute. How do these massive, geographically isolated continents actually connect when there are absolutely no roads between them? Well, the answer lies in the water. World trade relies almost entirely on a network of totally invisible sea routes. These are the unseen highways of the world, where traditional roads simply can't go. And they carry absolutely everything we rely on. We're talking everything from the electronics in your living room, to heavy construction machinery, to the grain on your dinner table, and the oil that keeps our cities' lights on. Okay, let's dive into this. To really understand how our modern world functions, you have to grasp the sheer massive scale of this maritime traffic. It's kind of mind-blowing. Every single day, thousands upon thousands of ships navigate these invisible highways. So today, we're going to take a sequential global tour of the 10 most critical waterways on the entire planet to see exactly how they keep human civilization moving. Let's start our journey over in Central America with our very first stop, the Panama Canal. This is an 82-kilometer, completely man-made canal that directly connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. To put how much of a game-changer this is into perspective, before this canal existed, ships had to take a massive, honestly treacherous detour all the way around Cape Horn at the very southern tip of South America. That added up to 8,000 nautical miles to their trip. Today, we see 12,000 to 15,000 ships passing through here every single year, moving mountains of coal, minerals, and chemicals. Now, because the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans actually sit at slightly different heights, the canal uses this incredibly ingenious lock system to act like a giant water elevator for massive cargo ships. But there is a serious catch right now. This system relies entirely on freshwater from Gatun Lake, and unfortunately, climate change is causing severe water shortages, which is threatening to dry up the lake and literally restrict this vital global shortcut. Moving right along, let's cross the Atlantic to our second stop, the legendary Suez Canal. This is a 150-year-old, 193-kilometer shortcut that directly links the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. The global impact of this specific route is just staggering. Physically separating the African and Asian continents, you have approximately 19,000 ships moving through here every year. That represents a whopping 12% of all global trade and roughly 30% of the entire world's container traffic. It's an absolutely massive energy artery, too, carrying up to 8% of the world's oil and liquid natural gas. While it was originally controlled by European interests, it was famously nationalized by Egypt back in 1956. And currently, geopolitical events, specifically the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, are forcing many ships to avoid certain routes and take much longer, much costlier detours around it. Heading north into Europe now, we arrive at the Strait of Dover. This is the absolute narrowest part of the English Channel, the physical waterway separating England from mainland Europe. If you've ever seen those gorgeous photos of the iconic white cliffs of Dover, well, this is exactly where those beautiful chalk faces are looking out over the water. But way beyond just the beautiful scenery, the Strait of Dover sees a staggering volume of traffic. We're talking 400 to 500 ships making the crossing every single day. It serves as an incredibly critical, high-traffic trade line. Basically, a massive portion of all the goods coming into and out of England absolutely has to navigate this incredibly busy stretch of water just to reach the rest of Europe and the wider world. Let's jump back over to North America for stop number 4, the St. Lawrence Seaway. This is a sprawling 600-kilometer route that effectively acts as a direct liquid highway connecting the Atlantic Ocean straight into the heartland of North America via the Great Lakes. What's really fascinating about this seaway is how seamlessly it enables direct port-to-port trade right across the US and Canada. We are talking about 40 to 50 million tons of cargo moving through here annually. It is literally the lifeblood for transporting raw, super heavy materials. Think iron ore, grain, and massive quantities of mining products that essentially fuel North American industries. All right, let's head all the way across the globe to Asia for arguably one of the most crucial economic pathways on Earth, the Strait of Malacca. Stretching about 800 kilometers right between the Indonesian island of Sumatra and the country of Malaysia, this strait is the primary bridge connecting the Indian Ocean over to the Pacific Ocean. Now, what's really interesting here is a geopolitical concept known as the Malacca Dilemma. This term was coined back in 2003 by former Chinese President Hu Jintao, and it highlights a massive vulnerability. Roughly 80% of China's total exports pass through this single narrow strait. If it were somehow blocked or disrupted, China's economy would face severe consequences. Further complicating all of this is India's strategic positioning. The Indian Andaman and Nicobar Islands sit right near the western entrance of this strait, which creates a really high-stakes strategic balance of power in the region. Shifting our focus over to the Middle East, we navigate right into the Strait of Hormuz. This 167-kilometer pathway links the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman and straight out to the Arabian Sea. It serves as the absolute primary gateway for major Asian economies like India, China, Japan, and Korea. So the crucial point here is energy. 25% of the entire world's oil and a full third of its liquefied natural gas flows through this specific gap. And here's the crazy part. While the strait is 33 kilometers wide in total, the actual deep water navigable path is only 3 kilometers wide. Because it's such an extremely tight squeeze, ships are forced to adhere to a highly strict traffic separation system just to avoid disastrous collisions. Jumping back over to the western edge of Europe, we encounter the Strait of Gibraltar. This is the narrow, highly active gateway connecting the vast Atlantic Ocean directly into the Mediterranean Sea. At its absolute narrowest point, the strait is a mere 13 kilometers wide, yet it brilliantly acts as a bustling maritime intersection, connecting Europe, Africa, and the Americas. But here is a surprising detail. It's not just for massive cargo ships. It's actually a famous highway for nature, too. It acts as a major global route for migratory birds crossing between the continents, which actually makes it an incredibly popular spot for bird watching, right alongside all that heavy commercial shipping traffic. Now, traveling up to the cold Scandinavian region, we enter the Danish Straits. This series of channels is where the Baltic Sea effectively meets the North Sea, serving as the critical maritime gateway for Northern Europe. The traffic here is incredibly heavy, particularly when it comes to energy. Every single day, about 3.2 million barrels of oil glide through these waters. It's an especially crucial route for Russian exports trying to reach the global market. Historically, this was strictly controlled as Denmark's internal waterway, but the 1857 Copenhagen Convention permanently opened up the Danish Straits, officially declaring them an international waterway that is free for the entire world to navigate. Moving further southeast brings us to Turkey, specifically to the Bosporus Strait. This is the essential and notoriously tight junction that connects the Black Sea down to the Sea of Marmara. Navigating through the Bosporus is incredibly difficult. The whole thing is only 31 kilometers long, and at its narrowest choke point, it shrinks down to just 730 meters across. I mean, that is narrow. This tight gap is the absolute primary lifeline for countries bordering the Black Sea to reach the rest of the world. The vital trade flow here has also been heavily impacted by the Russia-Ukraine conflict, neutrally highlighting once again just how sensitive these narrow maritime choke points are to broader global events. And finally, completing our global circuit is our 10th stop. And it's not a narrow strait, but rather a massive oceanic corridor, the Trans-Pacific Route. This is the gigantic web of shipping lanes carrying our everyday goods, all those electronics, textiles, and heavy machinery, all the way from the busy factories of Asia across the Pacific Ocean to the Americas. And this brilliantly illustrates how this massive ocean is basically divided into two distinct logistical highways. First, you have the North Pacific route, which acts as a direct conveyor belt from China, Japan, and Korea straight over to the US and Canada. And then you have the South Pacific route, which ties the fast-growing economies of Southeast Asia and Oceania directly to South America. It is an intricate, non-stop dance of global supply and demand playing out over thousands of miles of open water. Let's move out and see how this all builds together. When we zoom out, we can clearly see how these 10 geographically separated routes form one completely interconnected global web. Whether it's climate change threatening to dry up the Panama Canal, or regional conflicts restricting flow through the Suez and Bosporus, these invisible highways rely on highly fragile choke points. Make absolutely no mistake, these waterways are the true beating backbone of modern civilization. So as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to turn it over to you. Considering how incredibly fragile these choke points really are, which of these 10 waterways fascinates you the most or poses the biggest risk to our global economy if it were to shut down tomorrow? Drop a comment below and let us know your thoughts. And hey, if you enjoyed this structured voyage across the globe today, please make sure to subscribe so you never miss our next deep dive into the hidden forces shaping our world. Thanks so much for learning with me.